So I think we'll go ahead and get started, and if we get some stragglers, we'll get some stragglers, and that's okay. My name's Claudine Miller. I'm an LCSW, which stands for Licensed Clinical Social Worker. I currently work for HMHI, which stands for Huntsman Mental Health Institute, formerly known as UNI. We changed our name about a year ago. And I supervise our crisis services, which means I am over the 24-hour crisis line for the entire state of Utah. I am over the Safe UT app for the entire state of Utah. We also have MCOT, which is our mobile crisis outreach team. So if somebody is having a crisis in the community, we have a team of a therapist and a peer support that actually drive out to your house, and we'll do an assessment there and determine, hey, are there resources we can give you? What's the best thing to do? And so we have MCOT, and then we also have our warm line. The warm line is a line where it's, maybe we're not in crisis, but hey, I could really use some skills. Or maybe I just need somebody to talk to. So we have our crisis line, our warm line, MCOT, and Safe UT, all under the same umbrella at HMHI, which is a really exciting place to be. Prior to that, I have worked in all aspects of mental health, from inpatient to residential, day treatment, IOP, and outpatient, all with teens and youth. Teens are my favorite population to work with. Absolutely love it. Kids, I can't go deep thinking stuff. With adults, I hear a lot, I've tried that. I've tried this. We're a little bit more stubborn. With teens, I can give an idea, and they're like, oh my gosh, I've never thought about that. And it's the coolest thing ever to see those light bulb moments. So teens are my very favorite population to work with through the years. So I'm here. I found out yesterday I was doing this presentation. So well, didn't even know it was being recorded. But here we go. So I think one of the biggest things that we really want to say, everyone struggles. Everyone has challenges. And it's okay to have those struggles. It's okay to have those challenges. And let's talk about what those look like. So sometimes we're okay, and it's okay to be okay. It's okay when things are going well. You would be surprised how many kids feel guilty because things are going well. We had a crisis line caller the other night call up and say, I really wish I had some bad stuff going on in my life so I could relate to my friends because I can't, and I feel guilty that I can't. It's okay when things are going okay. The other important piece is that it's also okay to not be okay. And our kids really struggle with that. So part of the joy of supervising so many aspects of crisis work is that I get into the nitty-gritty of it all. So many kids feel really, really guilty when they're not okay. I'll have a kid calling me on the crisis line. They say, can I talk to your parent? You know, I'm really concerned about you. Do you have a parent there? No, my mom will be mad at me. If my parent finds out I'm suicidal, they're going to get mad at me. I'm going to disappoint them. Is the number one response we get from teens, whether it's on the Safe UT app or whether it's on the crisis line. My parents will be disappointed in me. They don't know I'm struggling. So the biggest thing, the biggest message, if I could stand on any rooftop, would be to open your mouth, talk about suicide, make it an everyday conversation if you can. Because the research that we've done and research out there says that talking about suicide does not increase suicide. It actually takes away the stigma and takes away the taboo. Because if you can talk about it, you can process your thoughts. If somebody thinks it's taboo, I can't talk about it. Nobody's going to listen to me. They're going to think I'm crazy. I mean, if you think about how many times in your local neighborhood, let's say I end up with cancer and I'm struggling and my neighbor down the street says, oh my gosh, I had cancer 3 years ago and I beat it. And I'm like, why didn't I know that? The same thing happens with mental health. It's not until somebody has completed suicide, that a parent says, my kid was also feeling suicidal. Wouldn't it be great if that parent knew that and had an ally, had someone to talk to? Or that kid could be like, oh my gosh, there's somebody who knows what this darkness feels like. Please, please, please talk about it. It's okay. My poor kids, I'm a single mom to 4 kids. They know all the time that if they're saying something, I'm checking in. Are you safe? How are your urges? How's self-harm? Yes, Mom, I'm not suicidal today. And they like kind of joke about it now. No, Mom, not today. Because it's just part of our normal conversation. But they also know if they have friends that are struggling, hey, do you want to come talk to my mom? She's pretty cool about that. She's pretty open about it. And if you ever see a semicolon tattoo, are you guys aware of what those are? So there was a lady who was a writer who really, really struggled with mental health and really had suicidal thoughts a lot. And she used this analogy that if I'm writing a story and I want it to end, I can put a period and it's done. I can also put a semicolon and change direction. So the semicolon became a symbol of suicide prevention, suicide awareness, and being able to change direction. When I was a kid, we had what was called McGruff houses, where there would be these signs in the window that said, I'm a safe house. If you feel like you're going to be, if somebody's following you, you can come into my house. As a therapist, I purposely got this to be like my McGruff symbol, to say I'm a safe person to talk to about suicide. I'm a safe person to talk to about mental health. So if you see that, it's actually a badge of honor in a way of, I've shifted direction, I've changed direction, I'm a safe person. So it's okay to not be okay, and the more we can let our kids know that, the better. Some of the common things that we hear daily, I don't have any control over my life right now. You know, I'm sure your guys' kids have said it. You control everything. I have to go to school. I have to do homework. I have to sometimes have a job. I have to do this. I have no control. You guys have all the control. The big one that we hear. I failed a test. I'm a failure. This is huge. That one thing can tank a kid faster than anything else. And there might be some other stuff leading up to it, but that feeling of, I failed a test. Therefore, I'm a failure. I can't do anything right. Why should I keep living? It's a really fast spiral. So the more you can normalize, yeah, man, we failed tests. Doesn't mean anything then other than, yep, it failed. Okay, what do we do next? What's our next best step? I don't know how to handle bullies. This comes in all the time on Safe UT. That feeling of, I don't have any friends. I don't know how to talk to people. I'm afraid to report anything because of retaliation. Happens all the time, daily, multiple times a day. Everyone thinks I'm doing okay, but actually I need help. And that's the biggest one that we see, and some of the biggest red flags that we see. I keep it together, I keep it together, I keep it together, but really I'm not okay. And if I say anything, it's going to change people's perception of me. So I don't want anybody to know. Because this is what's expected of me. It's expected that I'm going to be okay. It's expected that I carry this full load, and I keep it together. This is, if you guys know who Miley Cyrus is, this is her younger sister. And she wrote a song that she talks about here. Oops, not that.
I wrote this song last year, and that was one of the hardest years of my life. I felt stuck in like this place that I like could not get out of for a while, and I felt like I had no control over my life. I just needed to get it out, you know? I needed the conversation because I couldn't take it in my body anymore. Like I couldn't take the feeling of anxiety circling in my chest. I couldn't take that anymore, or I was gonna explode. That's how I felt. No one understood it. No one around me understood it. But one day my manager called me and he said, I just talked to a friend for a really long time and I now understand what you're going through. and I'm here for you if you need me. And that shifted everything for me. Just knowing that one person on my team like understood. I think the main focus with people with anxiety and depression is speaking out about it. That's how I got out of it, because if I would have just kept it to myself, then I would have never gotten the help that I needed. Go to talk to your doctor, go to talk to your counselor at school, talk to a friend's family member or somebody, go to an adult, speak up louder, because once you do, you're gonna find help. And the people that aren't suffering, just open your ears a little bit more. Are you okay? Is anything going on you want to talk about? I'm here for you. I love you. Let them know that they're supported, that they can come to you, and that you are that person for them. I mean, sometimes I don't know how to solve the problem. I'm only 19. I don't know how to solve a problem. I'm a baby. But if somebody's struggling emotionally, like, I can come and help you. And so I feel like that's my strength, you know? Like, I'm not going to be able to, like, ace a math test, but I can definitely help someone out who's hurting or feeling the same emotions as me, you know? I think I missed so many happy moments last year, and I'm definitely appreciating life more. I just think it's important to live your life happily while you're on this earth. You only get one shot at it. For ways to start the conversation, check out seizetheawkward.org.
Seize the Awkward is a really cool website to just figure out, how do I talk to my teen? What's a way I can start? Oops.
I wrote this song.
Yep. Okay. One of the things that she said that is so, so important is open your ears a little bit. And as a parent, as adults, one of the things that's the hardest is that we try to go to fix-it mode. Our kid comes home and says, I failed a test, and we say, did you talk to the teacher? Maybe they can let you retake it, which is pretty good advice, but probably not what the kid needed in that moment. The kid comes home and says, I feel so lonely. Well, who are your friends? Let's talk about your friends. Personally, I remember coming home in middle school, and I came home, I was like, middle school for me started in 6th grade, but then they put 9th grade back in, so I went to middle school for 4 years. I was that weird group. But I remember coming home one day and telling my mom, I feel like I have no friends. And she said, let's make a list of everybody you know and mark down if they're your friend or if they're not your friend. And then we can have a party and invite them over so you can get to know more people. And she kept going on. Later that evening, my dad got home. And I said, Dad, I feel like I have no friends. And he gave me a big hug. He said, it'll be okay. I didn't need the fix-it. I needed the hug. I needed the acknowledgement that what I was saying was valid. Because oftentimes as a parent, when we go to fix-it mode, we're invalidating their experience. We think we're helping, but we're not. The best thing that we can do is to say, tell me what that's like. That sounds really hard. Please, if you take anything away, step out of fix-it mode when your kids are really escalated, because that's not what they need in the moment. Let's open our ears. Let's hear what it's like for them, because their experience is going to be really different from what our experience was. And that's okay. And sometimes they're going to say something, and in your head you're thinking, oh my gosh, same thing happened to me in high school. But that's also not super helpful. Again, it's really invalidating. So the more we can just open our ears a little bit, be really honest, the better. So let's look at what stress and anxiety look like. So stress for a lot of our kids and anxiety, and also adults, racing heart, we get the headaches, rapid breathing, I can't breathe, I feel like I'm going to hyperventilate, upset stomach, In our really littles, the elementary school kids, upset stomach is our #1 predictor of anxiety, where they're just like, oh, my stomach hurts so bad, I don't want to go to school, I don't want to go here. Maybe it's worth looking into what's behind that, because something is behind it. That constant worrying and racing thoughts, it goes round and round and round and it doesn't stop, which also leads to forgetfulness, disorganization, and difficulty focusing. If our head is going round and round thinking, oh my gosh, I think that person doesn't like me. Am I wearing the right clothes? Oh, that nobody's looking at me. Nobody's talking about me today. And the teacher says, what's the answer to number 4? We have no idea what the answer to number 4 is because our head is so spinning about what's causing us anxiety. So if our kids are getting really forgetful, really disorganized, I swear I turned it in and it's more than just the excuse. Because even as a student myself, I use that excuse. We look into it. What's behind that? Easily irritated, moody, and overwhelmed. Think about when you're at work and you're feeling really anxious. Maybe you have a project coming up and that's all you're thinking of. And Sally next door comes over and says, hey, how was your weekend? You're like, oh my gosh, I don't have time to talk about it right now. That happens to our kids too. It's not just an adult thing. The same things are going on for our kids. Sadness and depression can look like that feeling of helplessness. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to turn. Sleeping too much or sleeping too little. Often also with anxiety, if our minds are racing constantly, especially with anxiety, I got to make sure that I pack my shoes, I got to pack my gym clothes. Where's that homework assignment? If we fall asleep, we lose it. So when our kids are staying up really late, it's typically anxiety that's keeping them awake. Because if I fall asleep, I'm going to forget what I'm supposed to remember. And I don't want to forget what I'm supposed to remember. Otherwise, I'm going to have an even worse day if I show up without my gym clothes. Changes in appetite. When our kids are really depressed, sometimes food can soothe, so they'll eat more. Sometimes there's no appetite. And also withdrawing and isolating. The things that used to be fun aren't fun anymore. The things that are fun, we don't like. The people that we used to hang out with, we don't like. And I will say one of the biggest predictors, or one of the biggest warning signs for suicide that isn't talked about enough is if our kids have been really depressed, they've been isolating, that they haven't liked doing anything, oftentimes they're not going to follow through with their plan. If suddenly there's a big burst of energy where, oh, hey, I want to start dance again. Hey, I'm going to go hang out with so-and-so. Hey, I'm going to go do this. After a prolonged period of depression, that's a really big warning sign because what it says is I have enough energy to now follow through. And it's typically what happens is the parents get so excited. We're like, oh my gosh, they're going to do the things that they wanted to do that they haven't done. That's great. If it's coming after a really long depression, out of the blue, watch that so closely because that's the time when we see more suicide attempts than any others because they're no longer depressed and laying around and they have the energy to try. So one of the biggest warning signs, if you can keep it on your head, if it's a progressive, they're progressively moving back into the things they like, that's wonderful. It's the sudden change that we want to watch out for as a parent. So let's talk about how to handle not being okay. Because as we said in the beginning, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be stressed. It's okay to be anxious. It's okay to have periods of depression. If they're prolonged, that's when we're looking out for things. If a kid's failed a test and they're really worried about getting into Harvard, yeah, they might be pretty depressed for that chunk of time. Are they able to pull out? Are we able to give the support? If not, let's look at some other things too. So there's 2 ways we really talk about for coping. You can turn inward to cope, or you can turn outward. And both have its pluses and minuses, and they both have their place. So to cope inward, these are the things that we're going to do when we're really escalated. We use what's called a SUD scale, which stands for subjective units of distress. It's a 0 to 10 scale. And if our kids are up in the 7 to 10 range, they're really distressed, that's not the time that we want to have a conversation. That's the time when we use coping skills so we can lower their distress and then talk about it. Like if a kid's really freaking out and you go in and you say, "What's wrong? Talk to me, what's going on?" Chances are they're not going to say anything to you at all. But if you go in and say, "Let's do 10 jumping jacks," I'm like, "What are you talking about? Come on, let's do 10 jumping jacks." So out of the blue, so out there, that they're probably going to do it because they think you've totally lost your mind. When actually what you're doing is using a coping skill. Hey, what's your favorite TV show? Let's watch it. Let's watch those funny cat videos that you keep showing me. Because when you can get the de-escalation down, then you can have that conversation. Now tell me what's going on. You seem like you've been in a funk lately. What's happening? So moving your body can look like going on walks, exercising, sports, yoga, dance, playing with a pet, anything like that. You can get out in nature. If you're wanting to have a conversation with your kids, the best time to do it can be in a car because you don't have to make eye contact. You're driving, the kid's sitting there. You can have great conversations in the car that you wouldn't even think possible. If your kid likes to play basketball, go shoot hoops with them and say, "What's going on? I notice you're not doing okay." Because again, you don't have to make eye contact. I don't know if any of you guys have kids that like to color, like those adult coloring pages. You're going to be looking down and coloring. Same thing. You can have great conversations when your kids don't feel like you're judging them. And oftentimes as a parent, we don't have very good poker faces. You know, I wish we did. As a therapist, I had kids in day treatment and residential who'd be like, "Oh my gosh, Claudine, I feel like I'm disappointing you." And I walked away going, "Dang it, I need to work on my poker face." It's really hard, but if you're looking down, that can shift it. Distraction. Listen to a book, read, take a shower. Oh my gosh, anything with body temperature. For our kids who like to self-harm, if we can get them to hold an ice cube and just sit there and hold it. And if you think about holding an ice cube and you're like, "Hey, don't hold it, don't let it go," pretty soon you're going to be going, "Holy crap, my hand hurts so bad," and that urge disappears. And that's all we need is in that moment, that urge to go away. So changing temperature can be amazing. There have been lots of studies that say using a game, even if it's on the phone, can be skillful. My rule of thumb is if you're playing for 20 minutes or less, when you're really escalated, it can be really skillful. After that, it could be leaning towards avoidance. But I know several surgeons who will come out of surgery and play a silly bubble pop game on their phone for 5 minutes before going to talk to a family, because it shifts things, it calms, it creates that distraction so they can focus in a different way. If your kid's really escalated and they have a favorite game, maybe you just sit and you play that game with them in the same room. "Hey, I'm just going to hang out here. Here's your phone. Show me your favorite TikToks. Let's go." So it can be skillful. Slowing your breath. I will say, if somebody is having a panic attack, an anxiety attack, they don't want to hear, "Breathe, breathe, take a slow breath." That's not what you want to hear. I don't know if anybody's been there, but it's not super helpful. But what is helpful is being able, in my house I keep bubbles. All my kids are teens and older. There are bubbles in my house because if my daughter's having an anxiety attack, and I keep them in my office for the same reason for the teens that I work with. If somebody's having an anxiety attack and somebody's having a panic attack, again, I'm going to shock a little bit and be like, "Come on, we're going to blow bubbles." And they're like, "What?" Because in their mind, they're super distressed. In my mind, I think I need to slow the breath. You can't blow a bubble if you're breathing really fast. So we'll go outside and we'll start to blow bubbles, which actually also taps into the visual cortex. And you're like, oh, look at the colors, they're so pretty. And suddenly you're breathing slower. We have this piece, this little bean-shaped piece in the back of our brain called the amygdala. The amygdala is our fight, flight, freeze response. It's part of that primitive old brain, we call it the old brain, where if our breathing's going really fast, our nervous system thinks, oh snap, here comes a bear, here comes a tiger, here comes a lion, I've got to do something, I'm in danger. And that old primitive response kicks in immediately. If we can slow down our breath, it actually sends a signal to that part of our brain and says, I'm safe, I'm okay. So the more that you can get somebody to slow their breathing without saying, take a deep breath, the better. So breathing is amazing, and if we have time, we'll go over a really easy breathing exercise that you guys can do. The other part is create something. Doesn't matter what it is. If your kid likes to bake, let them bake some cookies. Build something. I purposely keep Legos in my house and in my bedroom for this exact reason. They're in every office I've ever worked in. Play music, write a story, doodle, make some memes. Whatever it is. I had one teen who loved to bake bread. I've never made bread in my life, except for like zucchini bread and banana bread. I've never made real bread, but that was her favorite thing ever. So when she would come in for her appointment once a week, I'd say, so how many loaves of bread did you make this week? Because it would give me a really good gauge of where she was. Also, those coloring books, the doodling, keep them around. Let your kids doodle, let them color. Those are really great distractions. And as far as music, all of our kids love music. What I instruct all of my teens is to make a playlist ahead of time. But this playlist is going to be specific. Like if you're somebody who purposely feels anger, you're going to start that playlist with some angry songs, because what you want to do is match wherever they are. So if your kid is typically sad, you're going to start with some sad songs, whatever it is that their typical emotion is. So the first couple songs are going to be really angry. The next two are going to be a little less angry, and you're going to gradually shift down. Because if somebody's really anxious and angry and sad, and we're like, oh, let's put on classical music, that's going to help, you're probably going to be Flip the Bird and they're going to head out the back door. But if you can match where they are, so they already have this playlist ahead of time, match your emotion and then have it gradually shift, can be a game changer, especially if kids really like music. Personally, I do, and on really, really bad days, I might be blaring Rage Against the Machine in my car. We do that unintentionally. We match where we are, and then you can shift. So encourage your kids to make a playlist. Sit down with them if you want, or maybe they don't want you to know what their angry songs are. That's okay too. So those are our turning inward coping skills. Those are things that we can mostly do on our own. Sometimes we need like those little hints. Hey, let's go for a walk. Or the dog really needs somebody to throw a ball for him. You know, something like that. The other ones are how to connect, how to turn outward. So turning outward includes loved ones, trusted adults, and other professionals. Loved ones can be family, friends, families, friends, teammates, classmates. Some really good conversation starters, or ways that we'll even tell your teens as they text in is, I don't know if you've noticed, but things aren't going great for me right now. Can we talk? For parents to just be able to say, I've noticed you're down lately. What's going on? But maybe you're doing it while you're cooking dinner. You don't have to be making the eye contact, and that's okay. Seems like you haven't been yourself lately. What's up? You're going through some things. I'm here if you want to talk. A trusted adult can be parents, guardians, teachers, coaches, counselors, religious leaders. Every time we get a kid who texts into the Safe UT app and we say, is there anybody that you trust? How about a school counselor? Is there a teacher that you like? Because almost every single time, do your parents know? No, they will get so angry. I can't tell my parents, they don't know. Okay, who else can you tell? I will say there are plenty of times when we get a tip or somebody's calling or texting the Safe UT app. They'll say, you know what, I'm pretty worried about you. We need to contact your parents. I have called parents at 1 o'clock in the morning to say, hey, I'm on the Safe UT app with your kid. He just took 30 pills. We should probably get him some help. And oftentimes I get parents in tears saying, I had no idea. I didn't know they were struggling. So keep the conversation open. Talk about suicide. It's going to be okay. We hear, like I said, I'll disappoint you all the time. And professionals. The Utah Crisis Line is a statewide crisis line, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's run by crisis workers. The Safe UT app is run by licensed counselors and therapists, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have people on the computer answering every single chat and tip that comes in. We have people answering phones 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every time that phone rings. It's a pretty phenomenal system that we have, and it's for the entire state. I'm pretty proud of it. They do some really good work, and to be a little piece of it is pretty nice. So the Safe UT app is not just for kids. If you guys as parents don't have it, I encourage you to download it, because as a parent, you can also use it. I've had parents text in and say, my kid is freaking out. I can't handle this anymore. So we'll talk through some coping skills. I've also had adults that will send in tips. Hey, I heard my son's friend say blah, 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 and we'll send those on to the school. So in the app, there's a tip section and a chat section. Any tips that come in, we forward them on to the school, every single tip that comes in. Some that are more concerning, we have a massive call list for every single school district. And we will go down that list until we get a live person, even if it's 3 a.m. Like, hey, we just got this tip in. You guys need to be aware. Happens all the time. So I want to compare mental health a little bit to physical health for a minute. And there's this whole spectrum of people and it's the people we just talked about, how to connect outward. On one side of the spectrum, we have our trusted adults. The trusted adults would drive you to the doctor. They would notify the school, hey, my kid has a broken leg, he's going to need some accommodations, and they're probably going to fill out all the necessary forms. Right? They're going to take care of that piece. In the middle, we have the professionals. The professionals would diagnose the break. They're going to recommend what you should be doing next. And you may seek a second opinion, especially if you didn't like the first doctor. You know, how many times do we go somewhere and we're like, oh my gosh, that doctor didn't listen to anything I said, totally blew off my concerns, sent me home with this little splint, I know it's broken, and we'll go seek out another professional, maybe somebody who's specific in that area. We're like, oh, it was broken, here it is. Same thing can happen for mental health professionals. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have our loved ones that are going to hang out with you, bring you your favorite food, and send you funny videos. And the important thing is that you just wouldn't tough out a broken leg. For mental health, it's the same thing. On one spectrum, we have our loved ones that are going to give us those hugs. It's going to be my dad who's like, that really sucks. You feel like you have no friends. On the other end, we have the trusted adults, the school counselors, the teachers, the religious people, whoever's in your kid's life. And down below, we have the professionals. And I will say finding a therapist that fits can be a challenge. Just like finding a doctor that you feel like listen to you can be a challenge. It's okay to go and talk to a couple different therapists. It's okay. Most therapists will set up, you can do a little consultation. Let's see if we're a good match. Sometimes it's over the phone. Sometimes it's in person. It's okay to do that. And it's okay to shop around. And frankly, it's okay to fire your therapist and I want to try somebody else too. We take no offense whatsoever, because in my mind, I would rather have somebody getting the help they need than feel like they have to stay with me if we're not a good match. And I'm not a good fit for everybody, and that's okay. So when you're not okay, we can cope and we can connect. We can go outward and inward. So coping inward is the body, the brain, the breath, and create. So move your body, distract your brain, slow down your breathing, and create. To connect, use trusted loved ones, trusted adults and professionals. And no matter how big or small you think your challenge is, there's always somebody to